So we're going to continue where we left off. Equations similar to what you did yesterday, only just a little bit harder. But you guys are great at equation solving, and the same principles apply. So if I'm trying to isolate the squared quantity, and I didn't fix my pen problems yet. If I'm trying to isolate the squared quantity, I'm just going to get rid of the 4, just like you do when you solve equations. Subtract 4 from both sides. Then you're just dealing with this 5 that you need to get rid of. Man, technology. This 5 that you're trying to get rid of. But again, same rules apply. 5 is being held together to that term by multiplication. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Oh my gosh. This is annoying. Anyway, I'm not going to start over. So I get x minus 3 squared is 4. And then I have my two equations. Either x minus 3 is 2 or it's negative 2. And I get my two solutions of 5 or 1. So now you guys go ahead and you try this next question. Pause your videos. And then when you're done, come back on and see if you got it right. Hopefully you got 4 and 2. If you didn't, pause your video again and see if you can see where your equation differs from how I solved it. The next question, if you just take a minute and see if you notice something about this, you have 5 absolute values of x minus 2 plus 3 absolute values of x minus 2. And this is just like a plain old regular like term, only just looks a little more confusing. So how many x minus 2's do I have? Oh, I have 8 of them. I had 5 of them plus 3 of them. I have 8 of them. And now I'm where I was moments ago. Isolate this absolute value by dividing both sides by 8. And now you're at your basic absolute value equation, where you're going to split that off and say, I want the inside to either be 2 or I want the inside to be negative 2. And you solve that equation and you get 4 or 0. So you just have to be on the lookout to see if you have any like terms that can be combined. And the last kind of equation I want to talk about is what happens if it gets significantly harder? Well, if I had, let's say, 5, what could go inside here? Well, this could be a 5, or it could be a negative 5 in there. So we know that that's true. So we're going to apply that same concept to this question. I know that the inside can equal this, but I also know that the inside could be the opposite of it. We know that then it would become, as it comes out of the absolute value, it would turn positive and then they become the same. So I'm going to make this x plus 3 the opposite of what it was. So if x was positive, I'm now going to make x negative. If x was positive 3, I'm going to make it a negative 3. So I made this whole side into the opposite. And now I'm going to solve those two equations the way I would solve normal equations. Subtract x from both sides, add 1 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 4. Same thing here. Add x to both sides, add 1 to both sides. And then this one, I end up with x is negative 2/3. The only thing you have to remember when you have absolute value with variables on both sides is sometimes you get something called extraneous solutions. That means you end up with an answer that doesn't actually work. So you need to plug your answers back in and make sure that they work. Anytime you have absolute value with variables on both sides. So if I plug in 4, I get 8 minus 1 is 7. I plug it in on the right-hand side and I get 4 plus 3. This one works. And I do the same thing with my negative 2/3. I plug it in and the two sides are actually equal to each other. So I'm good. Now you go ahead and pause your video and do this one. I'm going to come back and actually do it with you, either way, whether you got it right or not. So pause your video Try it yourselves and then come back and see if you got it right. So hopefully you split it up into your two equations where the two sides are equal, where the two sides are. Now I'm going to make this the opposite. And when you look at this, you're like, well, this is crazy. X minus 5 can never equal x plus 1. That's not possible. I don't need to do anything. I just know that that doesn't have a solution. So that was extraneous. I didn't even have to plug it in to know that it didn't work. This just doesn't have a solution. So that doesn't have a solution. And this side I'm going to solve. I add x to both sides, which gives me a 2x. I add 5. I get 4. And then I get x is 2. I still need to make sure it works. 2 minus 5 gives me a negative 3. Absolute value gives me a positive 3. 2 plus 1 gives me 3, and it works. So this one has one solution. Are you supposed to say 2 and NRS? No. NRS means there isn't a solution. If 2 is an answer, then that's an answer. So they can get a little tricky, but remember that the rule is look for extraneous solutions. When do you do that? Whenever you have absolute value with variables on both sides. That's it. Have a great rest of your day.